Good morning, everyone. I'm Claudio Gualtieri, Chair of the PCA Workforce Council. Happy to be with you for our quarterly meeting today. And the recording is on. You'll see Heather has started the recording. As per our typical process, we will record the meeting. It will assist us with note-taking purposes and also be posted publicly on our PCA Workforce Council website. So with that, I'll just quickly introduce the topics that we're going to cover today. We will approve the minutes from our last meeting in April, end of April 25th. You all should have received the minutes ahead of time and hopefully had a chance to review if there's any edits or corrections needed before we adopt those. We'll then have subcommittee updates, including some really exciting work that's happened, especially in the new member orientation committee and Bill Halsey's work on training fund and with other members of the council on that. And we will then give a very brief update on the status of implementation with collective bargaining of our existing agreement, a quick note on our negotiations moving forward, member updates, there's opportunity for other business. I think Fran would like to bring something up for our attention and discussion, and we'll have public comment and then a motion to adjourn. So with that, that's our agenda. And we can dive right in to the minutes, approval of the April 25th meeting minutes. Have council members had a chance to review, and is there a motion on the floor to adopt the minutes as presented?
I'll make a motion.
Fran, a motion? Is it seconded?
This is Kathy. I'll second.
Motion is properly made and seconded. Is there any discussion or need for any edits on the minutes of the April 25th meeting? Seeing none, I'll ask for, Eileen, were you going to say something? Did I cut you off?
I'm looking at it and I'm like, did I miss that meeting? Because the minutes say I was in absence, but I'm not listed as being there. I just don't remember missing the meeting.
Eileen, I will double check that for you, so I'll make sure that I can look at the attendance for the meeting and confirm whether you were there or not. Because if it's my omission, I apologize.
No,
but I'll let you know.
You're probably right. My memory is not what it used to be.
And 3 months ago it feels like ancient history to me.
Right.
So
Yeah.
So I don't want to say one way or the other, but I'll get back to you on that. Thank you.
Yeah. So we will. Then the motion is to approve the minutes pending confirmation of Heather on attendance of Eileen Healy. All those in favor, I'll ask for a voice vote. We'll signal by saying aye.
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 Any opposed or abstention? No.
Well,
Eileen Healy will abstain. Either way,
Yes.
do you want to just abstain for? Okay.
Yes.
So we have one abstention. The motion carries so ordered. We next now move to our subcommittee, and I just want to recognize Denise. Hello, welcome, Denise. Good to see you.
You as well. Now
We
I can hear
started
you.
very promptly as almost everyone was here, and it was 2 minutes till, so we started right on time.
Okay, sorry about that. I was in a
No worries.
regional meeting.
No worries. So we're now moving to item number 3 on our agenda, which is subcommittee reports. For that, I'm going to turn first to Bill Halsey to give us an update on the training fund. Bill?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. So we have been working with the training fund. We have amended their contract. And we are now working on the next amendment. At the very end of June, we did an amendment and we allowed them some flexibility to move some dollars around with authority from DSS if they were underspending in one area and overspending in another area. That's pretty common in most of our contracts with vendors. We give them some ability to move some dollars around if they notify us and if we authorize it. So, but now we're working on Amendment 8, I think, and we continue to try to clarify language and make sure we're on the same page. We also agreed with them to meet with them on a monthly basis, because what happens, and I don't have the full history on this, but it felt like there were a lot of things that were rushed in like April, May, and June related to the contract, whether getting payments out or getting tuition reimbursement approved. It just felt very rushed. And what we were trying to do is establish a more routine cadence with them to just make sure that DSS is compliant with the contract of getting money out the door, and whether there's, pre-funding required and ongoing invoicing required, that we're not delayed in that and reviewing that. Or just, I think, just communication with them on a more regular basis to try to, I guess, keep things on more of an even tempo, so we're not rushed at the, in the final quarter of a fiscal year to get every single thing done, because there were some flurry emails going out like, okay, if a PCA finished their their tuition or their class on June 15th, but we don't get the invoice to you by July 15th, can we still count that against the the fiscal year 23 dollars, or do we have to, so stuff like that we're trying to avoid going forward. And so I think we're in a pretty good position. We now have a shared document. It kind of ran into a technical flaw last time, but theoretically we have a shared Excel document that they send us on the tuition reimbursement, and we review, and real time they can see our edits and approvals and question marks, and we need more information here, we need more information here, this is approved. So we think we're in a better place on tuition reimbursement, and kind of setting like precedent in terms of, okay, we reviewed and approved CNA classes. We don't need to do that again. Like we've established that there are some courses that we're going to approve every single time, and we don't need to revisit that. I did ask Deirdre, she was kind of, I would say, pushing that envelope a little bit. There are a lot of people that are in occupational therapy courses, which is great. A lot of those transfer very nicely, those courses. But I said, for those, we'd still like to see those on the spreadsheet just to make sure that we're aligned with those approvals. But many of those courses align nicely with the with the work that the PCAs do. So I think we're in a pretty good position with the tough contract and the training fund. Happy to take questions, comments, happy to kind of keep Workforce Council updated on things that we've approved going forward, and tuition reimbursement of what we think fully aligns with the core competencies.
Yeah, Bill, I just want to express appreciation on behalf of certainly myself and the council, because I think you did pick up on just a need to take a breather, take a methodical approach. I like how you and Denise sort of grounded this program in the core competencies of CMS. Look back at the statutory charge and how does it relate to the job function and what we're trying to do here, which is build a quality workforce for home and community-based support for our Medicaid consumer clients. And so I always appreciate you and Denise sort of regrounding us in what's the mission, what is our North Star here on self-direction, and how does this training fund empower. And I'm actually excited that I think for the first time in a while, we're going to be getting to a place where those training dollars are not only impacting this program, but having broad range support for our workforce crunch. You and I deal with it in other spaces, so I'm appreciative of any good models that we can borrow, scale, and learn from. So thank you for that update. I don't know if council members have questions. I'll pause. You can use the raise hand function if anyone has a question. If not, with appreciation to Bill and the training fund, keep up the good work.
Can I also just say thank you also to Denise? She sometimes keeps me on track. So if I stray, whether it's the collective bargaining agreement or history on this project. So thank you, Denise and Heather. So I just want to say thank you very much.
Good work. All right. That brings us to the next subcommittee update. And for that, it's the new member orientation work that has been led by Eileen. I want to just thank Eileen for taking on the responsibility to be a lead in this space and pushing it to fruition here. I know that we all had a chance to review the draft materials. This will be one opportunity to give feedback, and Heather is able to sort of jot down any feedback that the council wants to give at this time, but we're also willing, I think, Eileen, to take feedback by email afterwards, and people can just triage that to Heather, and she can make sure that it gets reconciled into one set of edits and suggestions for the committee's review. But I want to appreciate Eileen, Heather, Denise, and Kathy, who all served on this committee, and turn it over to Eileen for an update.
Oh, and Claudio, before you
Fran.
hand over to Eileen, yes, I wanted to add Fran as well. Fran Sienish also, just a fantastic subcommittee. And with that, I will didn't mean to interrupt you, Eileen, but I wanted to make sure we were all everybody was acknowledged. So over to you, Eileen.
Okay, well, thank you. And I'm appreciative of the committee. I may have been in name only the lead for this committee, but it really was a group effort of everybody participating, and that was really valuable, that everybody was able to do that. So what we did was we went back after the last meeting, which I was 30 minutes late to. That's probably why you don't have me. And we did talk about, you know, the format, and realized that we hadn't really finalized our format. So we met as a committee and went back and took a look at where did we think things needed to go? What would the flow look like? And so we spent a fair amount of time doing that and kind of tweaking some different words and how we were describing things. So I think that the committee as a whole feels as though that this is primarily ready to go, except we will do final formatting. Thank you, Heather. Once we get any other additional feedback from this group. And it's been an interesting process trying to figure out how much do you put in, how much do you leave out. We also talked about creating almost like a recruitment piece that is different than the orientation manual. And that may be able to live on both could live on the website. So that's kind of what we did. Do people have an opportunity to take a look at it and see if you think that it flows the way we were hoping? And if there's anything that we're missing, especially for new council members who, like me, you know, didn't know what you were getting into. And now you have a manual to kind of take a look at. Are there questions that you all might have had that aren't being answered as a new member or newer member?
So I'll begin. I gave some of this feedback to Heather, but I'll just highlight a couple of things. One thing that I very much appreciated with this document is I think it serves two purposes. I think one, the core function of new member orientation, so our new council members getting a grounding. But I think recognizing that we still have a few vacancies, and we'll talk about that, and we're always in the mode of recruiting new people, it's helpful for a legislator to understand, what am I appointing someone for? And I think empowering them to get us some real quality members when we are transparent on what we need. So I appreciate that it has that dual function, and it can purpose for both audiences. The other thing I would say is I also very much appreciate the decoding of alphabet soup, which is always a battle that we deal with in state government. And I had given to Heather a suggestion that perhaps we could embed hyperlinks. So if someone wants to click on, you know, self-direction or ADL or ABI, and maybe there's just a neutral source within state government somewhere, just so that if they want to inquire further or dig in on a description, that might be a piece of feedback that the committee would want to consider. And I had some other minor thoughts on the relationship between the states that I'll give to Heather, but it was really well done. One other thing, my last comment will be, I like the idea of a welcome from the chair. I think it personalizes it. One suggestion for council members, I always find personal testimonials to be the most exciting thing. People who are actually on the council, if they would be willing to sort of share a quote of what their experience has meant, they found this really interesting, or they learned a new thing from it. If council members wanted to sort of add on a page endorsements, or like when you have a book and on the back of the book it'll have what the critics say. I mean, if the council members want to add a little anecdote, it'll again make it more of a inviting and personal document. So just some sort of contextual issues and feedback that you all can take back, but really well done. Do others have points that they want to raise here or feedback here? All right. So we will include as follow-up just a reminder that people can send, if anything comes up and they want to share feedback, they can email that to Heather. Heather will compile that and some feedback that I verbalized today and provided to her offline and send it back to the committee.
And if I could just put a big thank you into Heather, who has tried her darndest and did her best at keeping us organized and moving things around and reformatting. And thank you very much for your efforts.
And planning scheduling dates.
Yeah.
You are almost welcome, but truly, as you said earlier, very much a team effort. Denise got us going with the Google Docs, and Kathy did ethics. Everybody added really significant pieces. So I'm grateful to you all, and just all four of you, just a delight to work with. So thank you. And once again, I just want to add my invitation to council members to email their feedback, and I will share that with the subcommittee as we put the final polish on it for everyone to have one last review. Thank you. Back to you, Claudio.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. Next, for an update on bylaws, a brief update. My favorite Manchester United fan, and I like so few of them. So Kathy, take that as a point of honor.
Thank you, Claudio. Very quick update from us, and thanks to everybody who served on the bylaws committee. Like the newer member orientation, was a team effort. The bylaws are going through internal review, I think at OPM right now, to double check that everything's in line, because the real goal was to sort of make sure that we were really tracking the statute, and just give us operating procedures by which to run the council by, and kind of put some stuff in writing that have been our normal policy, practice, and procedure. So my hope is, fingers crossed, we will be able to vote on this at the next meeting in October.
That's excellent. Thank you. It'll be nice to have formal bylaws in place. I think it's a mark of a maturity of a council to sort of have that in place, and again, more helpful as we orient new members and bring them on board. So thanks for that update. We will look forward to putting that on the agenda, hopefully in the October time period, and send it around with enough time for people to refresh themselves on the bylaws and any questions they may have. With that, we're moving rapidly through the agenda to item number 4, an update on CBA implementation, and in particular the healthcare premium assistance. Much like Bill had echoed in the training fund, I think there's been yeoman's work done by the council, especially the line agencies, DDS and DSS, that have had to figure these details out and work closely with Heather on OLR's advice to make sure everything one gets stood up in a way that comports with the letter of the agreement, but also I think the spirit of us trying to facilitate healthcare access. I think that was an important milestone that we all agreed to in this last collective bargaining. I think Connecticut is an outlier in a good way for having to try to provide some health assistance to our PCA Workforce Council. And so I'll turn to Heather for a quick status update on progress we've made and next steps.
Thank you, Claudio. And I just want to echo the thanks to Denise and to Bill and to everybody in the agencies, and Melissa, who's not here with us today. Just incredible teamwork, and I'm very grateful for everyone's efforts and communication and good humor. I'm very appreciative to you all. So just wanted to share that the first round of premium assistance payments went out as was delineated in the collective bargaining agreement in March. There was an extended application deadline that was reached through stipulated agreement with the union. So there was a second set of payments that went out, I believe it was May 1st or May 5th, somewhere around there. And now we're into our regular 6-month cadence. And so the next round of payments are due to go out in September. So the application deadline for PCAs will be August 21st. And we have really taken to heart feedback from all our partners in this, from the agencies, from the fiscal intermediaries, from Access Health Connecticut, from the union. We've gotten feedback from a variety of sources. And with any new benefit, there's always going to be learnings to be had as we roll it out and figure out how we can make it more accessible, as Claudio said, with the goal of giving more PCAs access to health insurance. And so as I said, we've taken all that to heart. We've met with folks, including Access Health. They have been incredible partners in this. They provided a special enrollment period for PCAs, which was very unique to accommodate the first payments that went out. They continue to be fantastic partners in keeping a dedicated line open for PCAs to ask their questions and to get specified help. Access Health has our application instructions for PCAs so that their messaging is consistent with ours. And they will be having open enrollment which is general open enrollment for everybody starting in, I believe it's November it starts and goes through January 15th. So the payments will go out in September. The PCAs who qualify will get those payments and can use them for healthcare expenses, or they can have that money on hand to purchase a policy during open enrollment. So it's great because the exchange products are very robust. There's wonderful tax credits for PCAs to be able to take advantage of that are available through the Inflation Reduction Act subsidies. So so it's very exciting. It's an exciting new benefit that we can expect that more people will be taking advantage of, and we will continue to improve how it is administered. Any questions or comments from council members? Eileen.
I'm just curious how many subsidies were issued?
I have that here. We had fairly, it was not as large a group as we would have hoped, but there were 123 PCAs or direct service providers who were able to take advantage of it. But one statistic that is not captured here, as people may or may not know, part of applying for this healthcare premium assistance stipend is first getting a denial for Husky and Covered Connecticut. So we don't have any statistics on that, but I'm cautiously optimistic that a number of PCAs, by going through that process, found out they actually were eligible for fantastic coverage through Covered Connecticut or Husky. So with the goal of getting more people covered, I believe that is serving a dual purpose there. So I'm really pleased with how this program has started, and that I think it is just going to continue to get stronger. But thanks for that question, Eileen.
Thank you.
Heather, I just wanted to add that we're trying to get communication out to the PCAs this week in English and Spanish, and I just pinged our folks to see how we're doing on the Spanish translation of the communication that related to this topic. So
thank you.
Just a side note, Deirdre asked to issue the English version now because it's ready. And I said I'd really prefer to issue them together. And so, but I'm happy to take feedback from the council on that. But I really think
they should go together.
They should go together.
They should go together. You can't put it out
equity,
one,
equity
not the
does
other.
not happen just out of convenience, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
So.
I have a question.
Yes.
So for the folks, the PCAs, is there a way to communicate to them the success, Heather, the number of people who have qualified, to let them know that it is working? And I think that communication is key here. And especially where you had talked about the denial from Husky and Covered Connecticut, because it did seem that more information was needed on how this process worked to make it successful to the PCAs. So I don't know if Bill can include that in your communication, or how can we get that out to the PCAs?
I don't think we can do it in this round, but I think it's a fair point to somehow alert people that through this process, many people became eligible for Medicaid. I don't know. Let us think about that. I mean, that's.
So one
I don't know if
suggestion,
we
Bill,
have that
as we
number.
sort of think through that is, I'll remind the council, and we were going to discuss this later on in the agenda, but we do have a contract now. The council is able to fund a contract with Constant Contact to keep better information available to our consumer employers. And I think it may be something we consider as part of our editorial calendar when we build out the types of communications and the themes that we want to have, maybe just some recent successes on implementation or strengthening the workforce through our collective bargaining agreement. We could pair it with the training fund and some of the successes there. But certainly something like that, I think using our Constant Contact as a source to inform consumer employers may be one way to do it. And then I would say, let's get through this next round, and then we'll have a whole year of experience. I think I appreciate your point very much and want to do it. I just want to figure out the right mechanism. I think Constant Contact is one of the ways. And then we also need to sort of get through an unwinding in Medicaid. So I suspect a lot of people will be redetermined. So people who have been on Medicaid as a result of the public health emergency may not get a denial, may still be on continuing coverage. So I suspect that there'll be more bigger inflection points that show the impact and magnitude of this win as we get through that process.
Great.
And to your point, Peg, about it being a multi-step process, and that was something that all of us, Denise, Bill, Claudio, Melissa, everybody who's been working on this has taken very much to heart. That how can we, make the communications as clear as possible, have more people educated on it so that we have like messengers from Access Health, folks from the union, information on all the websites, on the PCA Workforce Council website, DDS, DSS, so that there's multiple places to get this information, and that it is really taking what we learned from the first time around. What were the parts that were especially confusing, or what was what did people most need to know? So I think we've really highlighted those things and hopefully made it more user friendly, but that's not, it's an ongoing process. It's not like, okay, well, we got the perfect messaging now. It's like, I think we've really made some great strides, and we will continue to get that feedback for through the second round. And then the next round of communications hopefully will, be even stronger. So, but we rely on feedback from everybody, and the council feedback is equally important. So thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, Eileen, your hand's raised.
Is there a way, and this may be overlapping, but have you communicated to consumer employers about the benefits that are available to their PCAs?
Well, yes, part of that, their information is on the PCA Workforce Council website, or when the benefit was first started, and the instructions will go on there as well, they're really, I say they're PCA instructions, but it's also directed at consumer employers. So it says on the forms, we encourage consumer employers to share this information with their DSPs or PCAs so that they have access to it, because that is a very important piece. Denise, I see your hand is raised as well.
Yeah, to kind of couple on the communication, outreach. It was suggested that the state agencies put that information on our website. So I got confirmation yesterday from our web developer that we were able to get a new section called Healthcare Premium Assistant added to our self-determination page. And we also got it out on our DDS Facebook. So we're hitting up our social media as well. And believe it or not, I got a ton of emails when I woke up this morning, all asking me about what is this healthcare premium assistance. So I think that's really great that we have some grassroots way of kind of informal communication with people. So this is good. But I do second what Claudio said. I think we need to kind of see how the dust settles with this first round, this first year. So we'll have better numbers and probably even more feedback and input, and maybe revision changes moving forward. And then the hope is we have an opportunity through the collective bargaining agreement to be able to maybe make some changes to.
Nora Duncan is on our call too, Fran. Tell her we heard that robocall.
I couldn't find my mute button.
That's okay, Fran. I'm sure what she's got to say is way more important than what I'm talking about. So I think that, we're kind of bound to how the CBA, what's written in the CBA, because it would be really nice if we could kind of have some flexibility to move the payments closer to when the enrollment is for Access Health. So there's a couple of things that I would like to see change. I think that would help in terms of implementation. But yeah, the communication is a big piece. And I also sent it out. We have an advantage in DDS, unfortunately, over DSS, because we have direct case managers with much smaller caseloads that can have that direct outreach with employers of record. So we've had I sent that out to our case managers as well in all of the regions. So the word's getting out there now.
Other questions at this point? But at any point, of course, feel free to email me or call me at any point, and I'm always happy to continue the discussion. So, Claudio, I will pass it back to you for item number 5.
Thanks, Heather. I'll be quick with 5. It's an update on our labor negotiations. That negotiations continue. We are still in the process of trying to figure out a successor agreement or figure out a next step to bring that process to resolution. In the interim, however, we did sign a continuing resolution on June 30th, so that there's a continuity of the existing benefits and wage schedule as per the agreement that we just recently signed. So there will be, from the consumer employer perspective and from the delivery of the services, continuity. It should be seamless while we continue to work behind the scenes with the union to get to resolution. So more to come, and we will keep the council updated. And with that, I will move to item 6, which is membership update. As we briefly touched on, we do still have a couple vacancies. I think there's 2 and 1 pending. We have sort of followed up with appointing authorities where there's recommendations and where we've done some vetting and put forward a name, hoping to at least get one of those appointments in place in short order. And we'll let the council know of any additional vacancies, and feel free always to recommend names to Heather. If there's people whose bio you have and have expressed an interest in volunteering, we'd love to have those names come forward. So anything else, Heather, that you'd like to add on that one?
No, thank you, Claudio. I think you covered it quite well. But as I with Claudio, please email me at any point in time if you have somebody in mind who you think would be a great addition to the council. Thanks, Claudio.
All right, so that brings us to agenda item 7, other business. And I want to recognize Fran, I think, here for some suggestions that she wanted to bring up.
Yeah, thank you, Claudia. When I was looking at some old notes from minutes and things, I noticed that we had talked about a forum that the Workforce Council has done in previous years. And of course, with COVID and all of that, that had to stop. And I was wondering whether we wanted to try to do something like that, get the consumer employers together with Workforce Council meetings, agencies, possibly the new FI that's going to be coming in whenever it comes in, maybe even businesses that do assistive technology and things like that. Just bring everybody together. I know it's very busy right now, and we all are busy, but it's something to think about for the future. Any comments or thoughts?
Fran, I absolutely think there's a lot of benefit to having, like-minded folks together to have access to resources, direct resources. It, it will take some significant planning on all our parts because with all our schedules but I think if we have enough notice to be able to put something together, I would definitely be in support of it. In terms of, picking a location that's central, picking times where people aren't on vacation, all of these things.
Yeah.
So, a lot of those considerations, but yeah, I mean, if that's something that the committee is in support of, maybe we could put another subcommittee group together who can kind of be the charge of moving this forward.
Is there any funding for something like this?
Go ahead, Heather.
Yeah, Claudia, I think Claudia was.
No, I mean, the only thing I will say is we had put together a plan. We had gotten some limited amount of funding last year. And when the council had discussed it, we decided at that point we were still coming out of the pandemic and we felt uncomfortable doing an in-person sort of convening. So the strategy shifted whereby we were able to sign this contract with the money for Constant Contact. And that subscription free does allow us to do certain number of outreach, newsletter, connection in a virtual space. We could promote calls and things like that. But we would need to request new monies. There isn't current dedicated funds since we used those funds that we had for consumer engagement for the Constant Contact, and we're planning to continue that next fiscal year. So it would have to be a budget option that we put forward as part of consideration for the midterm correction next year. If the council wants to begin looking at it, I mean, if we can do it with almost no or very, very low resources, there may be opportunity for a one-time pot of money that we can request through some OE money that we have, but that's very limited. So I would say let's consider what we're trying to get accomplished, put together a working group and a plan with the idea of it becoming a request for the midterm of budget adjustment, and it'll also allow us to price out exactly how much something like that would cost, so that if opportunity came up before then, we could explore that as well.
Sounds good.
I like the suggestion, Denise, of having a subcommittee, given that our two durational subcommittees are winding down. So it's new opportunities. But I think it's I think it would be great to have it be a collective effort, because some folks on the council have been on the council for a while and have attended these events in the past and have that institutional memory of it. And I agree that there's a lot to keep in mind, that we want to do this in a very intentional way. I don't want to do something haphazard that then people wouldn't attend again. Like, if we're putting something together, I really want it to be worth people's time. And I also think that by doing it, once again, Claudia, if the subcommittee comes up with a recommendation to suggest a budget option, and that we're looking to do this in maybe fall of 24, that then by then we'd have the new fiscal intermediary online, because I believe at previous forums that was a really helpful component, was having the fiscal intermediaries present to do a presentation, answer questions. So I think that would be a really great thing to be able to have a representative from the fiscal intermediary in attendance of that, and then we could continue to think about which other guest speakers who might be good people to invite. And also, because of Constant Contact, we could use they have a polling function, so we could reach out to consumer employers and see if they have ideas of topics of interest for them or speakers they would like to hear. So I think if we can combine those resources using our Constant Contact mechanism to really make for excellent planning that's really consumer focused and consumer driven, that it's meeting their needs, as opposed to just like, oh yeah, we did a forum. Like, I really want it to be good value for people. So stay tuned. I'm really glad that you brought this up, Fran, and glad for the comments people have raised. And so we will hopefully, maybe in the fall, we'll start to think about getting a subgroup together. And if you're interested in serving on this subcommittee, please let me know as soon as possible, and we'll put together a new mailing list. So thank you all. Thanks, Claudia.
Thank you.
Thank you. One other item of other business I'd like for the council to consider is that there were a couple legislative changes this year that I think may be of interest to the council and to the people that we represent. We could do potentially in our next quarterly meeting. I'd maybe like us to consider a quick, not an exhaustive legislative recap, but just the things that have a most direct intersect with the PCA options that have materialized, and including the expansion of Husky C and how that might help things for people who take advantage of the CFC or Community First Choice program. And Bill Halsey and DSS are taking on a new task for PCA pathway, career pathways that may be of interest to the council. And so maybe we just do a 5-minute situational awareness of some of the things that came out of the legislative session and the policy changes that are underway. Are folks interested in that? Okay, I'm
Yes.
seeing general agreement. Okay. So that, any other new business, other business? Eileen and Kathy.
Mine is just, we've touched on it a little bit. What is the status around the new fiscal intermediary?
Want me to take that one?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So it has been it's been a journey. And Denise, you can jump in. I see you smiling. So I think I can honestly say that we are very close to completion at this point with our negotiations. There were some financial, economic issues that we had to address and really get into the weeds in terms of pricing on the contract. And we are literally talking about like reports that are due now. That's how detailed we are in with the contractor. So, but I really think, I mean, our commissioner is meeting with our legal director twice a week, every week until this thing is done, because she really wants to get this done. So Denise, you can absolutely disagree with me, but I think we're going to have a working draft of a final contract within 2 weeks. And so it's obviously has to be reviewed by the Attorney General's office. They have had some pre-looks at the contract, so they are aware of it. So they're not looking at it cold. They've even been in a couple of meetings. So, but they will need to do a comprehensive review of the contract. But I think a final working draft is probably 2 weeks away.
Yeah, I have to kind of be in agreement with Bill. We've been meeting 2 times a week with the new FI, going over every minute detail, which I think is really helpful, establishing policy procedure, which is kind of like our current FI business rules, to make sure we're spelling out the expectations on both sides, not just the work the FI does, but also what the state agencies are required to do in terms of meeting those objectives. Just to keep in mind, even though a contract is on our horizon, it is going to be a very planful, most likely elongated transition.
Yes.
So just to kind of let folks know, I mean, there's going to be phases to this transition to make sure that, we're not overwhelming the new provider, as well as making sure that folks that are going through this transition, the individuals and families, are feeling supported, and we have those resources and the communication all around that. So I don't know, guesstimate, right? DS is planned to go first during this transition because we're 1/3 the size of DSS. So I'm sure we're going to have the bumps and bruises, but that's okay. We're used to being in that position. Forthcoming then DSS. So I'm personally and professionally excited about this happening. From my conversations with the team, they have a lot of experience in other states, and beside that, there's that philosophy and understanding that you can't teach an organization that they seem to have, which I'm thrilled with. So
great. Thank you.
Yep.
Just echoing Denise's comment about a very thoughtful and deliberate transition process.
so that brings us to an opportunity for public. Sorry, Kathy. Sorry.
Yeah, because I didn't raise my hand in Teams. I just, when I had reached out to some people from the disability community to let them know about this meeting, and that might be why we have some public comment today. One person who wasn't able to be here did ask me to remind everybody on the council, tomorrow is the 33rd anniversary of the signing of the Americans with Disabilities Act. And since PCAs enable so many disabled people to live more independent lives, I just thought it would be good to make a note of that for the record.
Excellent note, and a cheerful anniversary at that. Thank you, Kathy. So I will pause for an opportunity. If there is public comment, members of the public can use the raise hand feature or come off mute and alert us as to if you would like to make public comment at this time. Heather, seeing none, if you could just confirm no one is hand raised or reached out.
I don't see any hands raised. I do see there's a phone number here that's on mute right now. Number ending in 0371. I don't know if that person wishes to make a comment and they would want to unmute themselves.
All right.
Okay. And Kathy just added to the chat. If you're on the phone and you're trying to unmute, important technical advice, hit *6 if you wish to unmute if you're on the phone. And it's *9 to raise hand, *6 to unmute. Let's see. Oh, okay. That the person on the phone I don't think is here anymore. So hopefully the technical piece was not an impediment. But I will hand it back to you, Claudio.
All right, thank you, Heather. With that, we've concluded our formal agenda for today. The time is now 10:18. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Eileen moved. Peg, was that you? Adam, will you second?
I will second.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. Let's take a voice vote. All those in favor of adjournment, please signal by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Abstentions? No. So ordered. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you
Thank
all.
you. Take care.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.